Welcome back, GRD 121 Computer Graphics, Fall 2020 to part 3 of our bridge cloning exercise. And hopefully yours looks as good as mine. I think mine came out pretty nice, but maybe yours looks better. Maybe you're taking other things away. I always have very motivated people who cover up the signs and take away posts and do all kinds of things. So you could certainly do more if you want. But what I'm going to do now is just review the colorize and the vignette. Now we already did that, but I just want to show you one other thing with the vignette. And I'm not going to put the ruler on here and do it real accurately. I'm just going to kind of rough it a little bit, but I'm going to go here and I'm just going to go in a little bit and I'm going to make a rectangle with my marquee. So I'm just going to go here and highlight and make a selection with the marquee and just eye it up. And there's my selection. I know it's hard to see. And then if you remember with the previous exercise with the turkey, we did select inverse. And another thing I almost forgot to do, but you could do at any point because I haven't filled anything yet. So make sure you make a new layer. We're going to make a new layer and I'm going to call this vignette. That's the border. So I'm going to make the vignette there. Now I still have my selection, so now it's going to happen on my vignette layer. And all that I'm going to do now that I did select inverse is I'm going to do edit fill. And you remember how to do this? You can do edit fill and you could choose white. You can also use option delete. Option delete is a shortcut to fill with the foreground color, which actually would be black. Actually, let me do that. If I went down here and I put on default and then I switched them so it's white black, if I did option or alt and then my delete key, it would fill that. And it filled it on the vignette layer. And the next thing that you have to do that's very important is make sure to deselect. And I'll deselect. Now, one other thing I'm going to show you here, if you remember, we just blurred it last time, but one thing you can do, if you right click on here, and I'm going to choose convert to smart object. And what that'll do, I was always telling you to avoid that, but if you do that now and you do a blur, watch what happens. It's exciting. I'll go filter blur and choose Gaussian blur. And I'll just do a blur, you know, somewhere close to 20, I guess. Nice soft edge there. And I'll hit OK. Now, the thing about when you make it a smart object is last time when we did the blur, I said if you messed it up or you wanted to change it, it's permanent. Now, you can go to Gaussian blur and say, oh, I want it more blurrier. And you can go here, and if you wanted to make it a lot more blurry, you could do that. Now, I don't. So I'm just going to X out of here, but you can. So if you ever want to use a smart object, that's why, because any of these things like levels or any of that, they become basically smart adjustments that can be changed. So it's helpful if you think that you might want to change that. Now you could always turn this off and not use it. So that's the vignette. And I could close this up here, and I'm going to make one more layer above my cloning layer. I'm going to click on my cloning layer and hit a new layer. And if you remember how to do this, this is just review. So it's just colorize. I just make a layer and I'll call it colorize. You can call it anything you want. And I can fill the layer anything I want. Now, you can just do this. You can double click on your foreground color icon and just look for a brownish color. If you want an orangey color, if you're looking for brown, sometimes I just go like an orangey color in here. And I'll just get a beigey kind of color. A little warm like that, and I'll select that. So again, this is the hue. This little stripe here is the hue. This gets less saturated. It gets brighter up here. It gets darker down here. It gets less saturated. See, this is more saturated. This is less saturated, and it gets darker. So I'm getting less saturated, kind of cooler over here. See, warmer, cooler. You see what's happening. So I'll just take a color in here and hit OK. And then on this colorized layer, I could do Option Delete, or you could just do Edit Fill. If you do Edit Fill, it's going to be foreground color because that's what that is. That's the foreground color. It says foreground. You could hit OK. And you remember doing that, and obviously it hides everything. But if you change the layer mode and you scroll down to color, it does that. Look how nice that looks. Now, that's a little harsh, so you can take down the opacity a little bit. I mean, you could even try a different color. If you didn't like that color, you can go find a different color. You know, if you were like, I don't know, I'm going to go here and use maybe a cooler color. You can hit OK, and then just Option Delete right over top of it. And now it's a little cooler color, although it doesn't look a whole lot cooler. And I'm still going to take down the opacity a little bit, let a little bit of the original color come through, kind of like one of those old 60s photographs. We have photo albums from the 60s and stuff, and the color kind of looks like that. It's not really intense like the 70s. It was way over the top. It had that kind of subtle kind of black and white versus color, which was actually nice. So that gives a nice feel, a nice nostalgic kind of feel to that bridge. We don't have any wires or kind of modern things in here. Take away the stop sign. You know, there's probably like a horse would go over there or something like that. So anyway, that's really it. That's all you really have to do here. Once you do the colorize and the vignette, and that's really simple because we did that before. And again, you're cloning, you can look at your before and after and go, wow, look at that. So that's a good way to see how well you did. Again, I'm going to do a file save. And just save since I'm using Google Drive. And what you can do, we could do what we did last time, is you can export a JPEG and share your PSD. So I'll do that for Google Drive. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll export a JPEG. And what a JPEG will do will just show me that. It won't have any of my layers or anything like that. So I'll go to File, Export as JPEG. And it's showing me pixels right now. I think what I did last time was do it like 50%, maybe even do it like 40%, because it's a bigger image. So I'll put it 40 in here. And then I'll click down here and they should make them both 40. So it's a smaller size. And if you go back to pixels, you'll see it's only going to be like 840 by 600 pixels. And this is just to upload to my Warren. If you wanted a picture to print out yourself, you know, do it full size. So I'm going to save this and this will export it. And there it is. And I'm going to upload that to my Warren. And I guess I can go back to my Warren right now. Now I don't need this open because I'll go find it in my downloads. I'll go to my Warren and of course I'm logged out. So I'm going to log back in and I'm going to go to coursework and I'll go down to cloning bridge and 2 comments again. One, I'll put the image in there and I can use insert image and I have to use this thing to go find it. And if you don't have upload, you might just be looking for it right now, but I have this Moxie Manager, so I have to go to upload. And it's in my downloads, and there's the JPEG. And again, the file size should be a lot smaller. If you didn't turn on your extensions, make sure that the file size is smaller, and it may say JPEG versus your PSD, so that's what I want to use. And I'll hit open, and then insert, and if it says 840, you could even make it smaller. I'll hit OK, and then I could always make this a little bit smaller if I want. That way you don't have to scroll to look at it. I could look at your preview right in the window like that. And I'll make it a little bit bigger. And that looks okay. And I'll hit save. And if you ever wanted to make it bigger, I mean, I could certainly scroll and look at it. And I'm going to look at your PSD as well. And then also, to look at your PSD, I'm going to add a comment. Now, remember, if you're in Google Drive, you have to share that. So I'm going to make sure this is saved, but I can save it one more time as Google Drive. And if you're not using Google Drive, remember that you can do this. If publish online and do photopea.com and then copy that URL that pops up when you do that. Now, I'm not going to do that right now, but if you're not using Google Drive, do publish online. That way, that's a way you can share your PSD. But if you're in Google Drive, what you can do is you can go find your file, and here it is. And then if you right-click on it and say share or get link, I think I could just do share. Now, make sure there's no restrictions here. Right now it says restricted. So I'm going to say change to anyone with the link. And you want to see green. If it looks green, it looks a little better. So I'll hit got it. So now it says anyone with link. So now I'm going to copy the link. And I guess I'll hit done. And I'll go back to here and I'll add a second comment. Now I think it'll put it in the same window, but I'll add a comment. And this time, because that's a link, I'm going to go to insert link and paste it here. And if you did publish online and it opened in a new tab, that's where you'd copy that link from too. And you'd put it in here and then always choose new window and hit OK and hit save. And then you'll have your image here. And if you scroll down, there's the link to your PSD. So this is your PSD link, either from Google Drive or from photopea.com. And this is a sample of your flattened or your JPEG image that you worked on, where you did all your nice cloning work to look at. So that's the end of part 3 for our ps4 bridge cloning. So I hope you had fun with that.